Boys, welcome back to the channel, or if you're a new viewer of the channel, welcome. If you are looking like the guy on the left and starting to lose hope that you will be able to get in shape, rest assured, I'm here to give you the answer, the inspiration, and the hope that you can get into the best shape of your life in not a drastic amount of time. There is hope for all of you, and with the New Year approaching, this video may come at the right time for you. So the reason I can speak so openly about body recomposition is because I've done it multiple times. If I were to just quickly show you the Gorilla Platoon Instagram page, we can see we get results week in, week out, week in, week out. We're just pumping them through, getting the results for the boys so that they can walk around and breathe in confidence. The Gorilla Platoon was founded really off the mindset that I was gained from the military, from climbing Kilimanjaro, and I put this together with my knowledge of body recomposition, which I learned from a very credible gym. You may have heard of them all across the world, and here I am today running the Gorilla Platoon. Why I want to show you this is to show you that there is hope. There is a lot of hope. If you start out looking like this, you can look like this. If you start out looking like this, not bad, you can look like this. If you start out looking like this, we can add muscle and allow you to look like this. There is hope for each and every one of you, and it is your birthright to be walking around like the blokes in the after shots that you see here. So I'm just going to give you our approach, the Gorilla Platoon approach to body recomposition, and you can take the bits you like and you can ditch the bits that you don't, which I foresee not to be much. So without further ado, let's roll in. Ultimately, these are some of the results we get, but I've just shown you them on the IG page. Anyway, if you want to check us out on the IG page or follow me or speak to me on there, feel free. We are not massive. We are not massive yet. You see the size of my following across the Instagram, across the YouTube. We're not big just yet, boys. If you get in now, you're going to get more of a personal touch. But I foresee this going quite big in the future. So, yeah, roll in while we can. Main thing I want to deliver to you today is how I burn fat and build muscle for the Gorilla Platoon members. If you're a returning viewer of the channel, you'll understand I just go straight to the jugular and give you the game and the advice to get you there. If you're a new viewer of the channel, then if you find value in this video, feel free to subscribe if you think it's worth it. Don't if you don't. So we're going to roll straight into that. Now, what it is built on is the military style approach to body recomposition. Body recomposition is ultimately, as you know, the art of dropping body fat whilst building muscle at the same time. Now, it is relative. For some of you out there that have been training for 7+ years, are you going to be able to build that muscle whilst dropping that much body fat? Maybe not. However, weirdly enough, the more out of shape you are, the more inspired you should probably be from this video, because the more in shape you are, the more it's just going to be fat loss phase than the ability to adapt and grow new tissue. So the principles we're going to cover in today's video is how we essentially strip down your beliefs so we can make room for new ones. We give you that new identity and that killer mindset that you want to be walking around with. We'll speak about that. The routine that we create for our members so that they have that to take on the day-to-day, because sure, the principles, very, very important. But the day-to-day routine is how you're actually going to get the job done. I'm just going to speak about my approach to body recomposition and the formula and the way that I like to do it for my people. Again, many ways to skin a cat if you're in the business of skinning cats, which I may get into, but I'm not right now. Just kidding. I'm going to give you the approach that I take for that. And then we're going to hit you with the raw tactics, how we train, what workout routine we follow, how we track our clients' form clips, meal plans we give you to eat, why we eat these macros, how we recover, why we do this for recovery, so you can get all of the tactics for it. So buckle up and let's head straight into it. So first thing we want to do is your beliefs and identity. Now, we must understand, and the first thing I say to all members is, you are where you are in life right now because of your own doing. Some of you may look in the mirror and think, how the holy fuck did we get to this point? And it happens. Life gets in the way. No, you're not a bad person because you got out of shape. Ultimately, though, but it is a direct reflection of the habits that you've been doing, and that's how you got to where you are. The problem is, most people's beliefs are so limited and tarnished because either you don't have a strong support system around you. I'm not saying your friends are bad, your family's bad. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying, in this analogy, someone somewhere along the lines has not called you out enough to go and fix the issue. And, dare I say it, maybe cemented into your brain that the idea of doing this is really hard, really difficult, and just out of reach for you because you're a busy father, because you work so many hours, because you're too old, and they will put these agenda and ideology onto you because that's what they believe themselves. As soon as people come into my wheelhouse of the Gorilla Platoon, I'm stripping those beliefs straight back and I'm giving you a new identity. And the way we approach this, it's much easier if I can draw something out, is we want to look at the way you are in two baskets. We have two approaches. We can take the current version of you, so we'll go see you, and then we've got the new version of you, NU. For the longest of time, you have done habits. Now, if we were to just sit you down and say, right, tell me some habits of the new version of you. Tell me some habits of the old version of you, and we were to draw them down the page, you would be like, well, the old version of me ate too much processed foods. The new version of me eats red meat and eggs and fucking whole grains as opposed to processed foods. The old version of me only gets 6 hours sleep a night because he's fired up on caffeine, likes to stay up watching mindless stuff on TV. But the new version of me gets 8 hours every night because he's read just before he went to bed, therefore he's tired. The old version of me would have sank 6 pints in the pub on a weekend. The new version of me summits a mountain in my country with my boys. The old version of me is going looking for stinky hole in the club. The new version of me has a supportive partner that wants me to essentially be a jacked individual. Now, the old version of you will essentially the life is essentially a mirror to how you are. So whichever areas in your life are down at the minute, it's a reflection of you. Same for me. Any areas that I'm not content with right now, that's a direct reflection of how I am. And I must take that very literally right on the chin and move towards those weaker areas with purpose and intent and with an open student mind that says, I'm open to getting better. The moment you do this, the moment you have a student mindset to life, you will win, because most people don't. And as long as you will learn, you'll be surprised how quick you can put that knowledge into practice. And before you know it, you have something great in life. I've done this for physique. I've done this for building something that I'm passionate about for my day to day. I could probably definitely develop it in more areas of life. Maybe my ability for spirituality, my ability for relationships, they could definitely do with improving. At the minute, I really just dialed in on work and fitness, and the others have got neglected. Because one thing I will say very quickly is, if you were to, let's get rid of this. So one thing I'll say is, if you want to fix one area of your life, you've got two ways of going about it. Let's say the bar to fixing it is up here. You've got two ways of going about it. You can try and move every area of your life forward, bearing in mind you've only got a certain amount of energy. And by doing this, you'll get to level one. For sure, you will get to level one in everything, absolutely. And from 0 to 1, brilliant. The problem is, look at the deficit in where you need to be to get to that goal point of your area in your life. That said, if you took all of your energy and just put everything else on the minimum effective dose, but then focused everything on your goal area, bang, you're going to be able to breach through because you've got more time, resources, energy, effort, intent, passion and drive to be able to breach through the gap. So in a weird way, sometimes it's best to do a season of your life. For me, this season has only been about building the Gorilla Platoon with a sprinkle of travel and fun in there at certain times in the year. For the majority of time, everything else has been on the minimum effective dose because that's what's been needed for my life this year. Now, back to what we have here. You, for the longest of time, have stacked these habits towards the old version of you, and the new version of you maybe has like one habit inside that basket. So right now, you are currently in the balance of, and I will draw this out in this way here. So let's get rid of this. So let's go. You're like, and again, let's get rid of this. We can get rid of these two as well. You've got one marble here, and the seesaw is being weighed down into this position here. Now, why do I mention all this sort of stuff? I know you came here to be like, tell me how to train, tell me what to eat. We will get to that. Trust me, we will get to that. If you want a timestamp, if you've watched this all the way through and you want to timestamp it for the viewers so they can skip right through it, you can, but in a weird way, you'll be seeing them off, because how many videos have you watched, eat this and train like this, and why are people still in the exact same position? Because it's not really about the tactics, it's about the principles, and this is what I drill into my people, and this is how we get so many of the results, because it's about the principles. So I appreciate you came here for the quick tips. You will not achieve that, allow that to be another lesson. If you want quick fixes in life, none of it will ever satisfy you. It's the equivalent of needing to get something done, but you can either go a little bit more expensive but know it'll be really good, or you can go cheaper and think it'll still be okay. You go cheaper, I guarantee you buy twice. It's the same every time. This is the same for your physique. It's the same for your relationships. Whenever you think short term, you end up paying for it over the long term. Whenever you think long term, you suffer in the short term but benefit over the long term. Just look at it like this: that the condition you're in right now does not want to ever come back to you ever again. So you can spend the time really dialing in so you have an amazing physique later on, but you're going to need to do these habits in the beginning. So back to it. The reason why it is so hard to really make a change by yourself without coaching, without someone breathing down your neck all the time, is because for the longest of time you have stacked habits in the old version of you, and they have made up your identity. Now, when they make up your identity, that is going to influence how you see yourself, the thoughts that run through your minds. If for every day I came and told you, you are a humanoid piece of shit, and I put that on you day after day after day after day, do you still think you're going to be the best thing since sliced bread, or are you going to go into things a little bit anxious and less confident? Now, let's say it's not me personally, but let's say it's actually someone you respect. More than likely, it's going to affect how you perform. And then more than likely, because of how you perform, it's going to confirm how you see yourself. Now, the same thing can go for the other way. If for every day someone you respect comes up to you and says, you are the best thing since sliced bread, anyone that is around you is so lucky to be around you, you can do whatever you want, you are a killer, you are a fucking warrior, you are this, and this is ultimately what you should say to your children, ages 0 to 7, so they turn up and be absolute warriors. But you're then going to act how you have been told, because they're going to say you're like this. You're going to try and confirm that because you like the idea of it. So you're going to act in a certain way. The habits, then you do them, and then that confirms how you view and see yourself. Now, why we do this is because if we don't take out the old habits, it will forever feel like you're swimming upstream. This is why people start something. They'll do it for a month and then they'll sack it and go back. I have this quite a bit actually. Some clients will come to me, they'll do it for a week or two, and if they've not really been fully committed to it, they'll go back to the old version of them, because they'll realise I'm for every check-in saying, you've done this, we need to fix this. This is something that needs, and it's painful, and I will press buttons which not everyone likes, but it gets results. It really gets results. So we can dance around it. I mean, let's have a look at this guy, for example. Look at the size he was here. Now he's got abs. Yeah, but there's a lot of painful conversations you have to go through to get to that point, and not everyone's receptive to it. But if you want to really change, you're going to have to be open to dropping the old habits, the old version of you. If you want to get anywhere in life, if you want to get a result. So then what happens is you remove those habits. You remove the thoughts. I'm not that guy anymore. I don't do this. Think of a vice you've dropped in your life over the last year, 2 years. You're not that guy anymore. You're not the guy that does this vice. And then you ultimately replace that with a better thing that you're doing, something that you're more proud of and more you have more respect about yourself. And then eventually what will happen is you'll stack so many habits in the new version of you, there'll be none in the old, and then it's a lot easier to swim downstream to make the changes. Now, the next thing we want to look at is the routine, because I can give you the mindset and it's nice. And right now you're probably thinking, yeah, this all makes sense and it sounds decent, I'll follow this. But if we don't give you the routine, you can't put it into action in the day-to-day. So the Gorilla Platoon approach to the routine is you are intentional with how you live life and you respect yourself. That's what the 2 pillars of our routine are. So if you're intentional, you would know what you're doing at each point of the day, right? Because you're intentional. Just like if you knew you wanted to drive to a specific street that was 4 hours away, you would have the map set. You'd know exactly when you were going to get there, how many miles it would take, and you'd be intentional. You need to live like that in your day-to-day if you're serious about getting a result. Now, if you're not serious and you just want life to kind of push you around and things happen and you get to blame someone else for what's happened, then don't do it. Because at the end of the day, it's still going to take 10 minutes and it's still more time you could have spent mincing on your phone. So if you'd rather do that, then do that. I'm not here to tell you what you do is wrong. I'm here to say this is what we do to get results. So if it's built on those 2 pillars, on intent and then self-respect, you would know that, okay, what would the best version of me do and what time would you get up? You get up at 6 a.m. Okay, cool. What we do as soon as he woke up? Well, he's accountable to his plan, so he's going to weigh in. Cool. And then what did he do? Well, he realises that he needs to hydrate because he's been asleep for 8 hours, so he drink a litre of water. Then he'd go outside into sunlight and walk and get that sunlight in him, because ultimately that's what human beings should be doing. Much better for his overall mood. If we sit inside all day behind technology, we're going to turn ourselves into a hermit and a weirdo. Then after that, he'd be eating his first meal, which was prepped, recorded, tracked, and he knew what he was eating, because again, he's living with intent, he's got goals, so he needs to eat in a certain way. He will then do his work, whatever that looks and feels like, and then he'll have a break where he'll eat his next meals. He'll do some more work, he'll finish that, and then he'll go and train. He'll do his resistance training. Again, this can be done at any point in the day. It's whatever fits best for you. Then he would still allocate family time, because that's important to him. He would also allocate time to prep his food so that he doesn't miss anything. And then he would have a bedtime, which he did not miss on. Most people's problems are because they can't stick to a bedtime and go to sleep when they say they're going to, because ultimately these things here keep you up all night onto your phone, because they're more entertaining than turning them off and going to bed early. Although your dreams that you have when you're sleeping are much more fun and creative than probably most things the phone will show you. But people, sadly enough, don't give that any chance. Just like walking without music in nature will give you a lot more thoughts and ideas than searching through many podcasts, YouTube videos, dare I say even my videos. The secret to most things in life, or if you just stared at your wall, a lot of the answers will come to you. They really, really will. Now, sure, if you need to learn an absolute tactic, then fine. You obviously need the answers. But for most of you, if you just sat and thought for a few seconds, the solutions will come to you. But most people don't want to do that because it's so boring versus our hyper-stimulated brains. So we've mapped out the routine with the mindset of intent. I'm going to live how I want because it is my life and I can choose how to do so. I'm not outsourcing anything to my life to somebody else, because that is ultimately what a child would do, and rightly so. But an adult does not do that. And I'm also living and looking, is this me at the best self-respect point for my life? And just ask yourself, would you be proud to tell people the things you're doing? If the answer is yes, then do it. If the answer is no, then don't do it. Simple. And this is you coming up with it, by the way. So that's the routine that we follow. Now we want to speak about the tactics. Now, my approach to guerrilla platoon transformations, and one of the main tactics that you probably came looking for in this video, is I like to keep food high. Why? Well, food high will drive performance in the gym. Driving performance in the gym and resistance training is single-handedly the best factor for building and, at the very least, retaining muscle tissue. So it makes sense to keep food high, specifically keeping carbohydrates high, because carbohydrates are exceptional when it comes to performance. There are two types. You've got higher GI carbohydrates that you can have very close to the session. These are good for you where you have finished work and you need to get to the gym quickly, but you need that quick burst of energy. You'd eat higher GI foods, fruit, cereals, bread is actually higher GI, jams. You'd eat those, and from that way you'd be able to train like a savage very quickly. Lower on the GI, you're talking your oats. I mean, plenty of fibre in that. It'll take a while to digest. Your pastas, moving a little bit higher up the GI scale, you've got your rice and you've got your potato. Now, I like to keep carbs high, I do, and I like to keep protein high as well. And then ultimately, fats will stay high until you need to drop. But my approach to this is, we start you just below maintenance. And the reason for that is you're still in a slight deficit, so there's still scope for a little bit of body fat coming off, but there's plenty of food to drive performance in the gym. I can't say this enough. This is my approach. It's not everyone's approach. Some people just like to go low food and keep pulling you down lower. I've seen it work. The other way works if you want to go low food and just allow the kgs to come off. But a better approach I find that takes more discipline is the staircase approach, to where you are increasing the output and decreasing the food. Ultimately, you can't have it both ways all the time. So we start on, let's say, 20 minutes of cardio daily, formal cardio. This is heart rate 120 to 130, and I would keep it at that for the time being. You want to do it on something that's non-impact. Why? Because that way you can do it daily. It doesn't accumulate too much fatigue, and it doesn't spike your appetite through the roof. Something like running, sprinting outside, and swimming, they just send your appetite through the roof. Even swimming, although it's non-impact, it sends the appetite through the roof. How many times you've been swimming, come out and you're absolutely ravenous? It's the last thing you need when you're trying to diet down. Whether it's walking on an incline treadmill, it doesn't spike appetite. I literally did it this morning. I was absolutely fine after it, and that was fasted as well. So we start with cardio. we also do 10,000 steps each day, where it's going to depend on your weight or as to how much you're burning within a given day. Now, with this, I can keep food high. And for as long as you're still dropping, then we don't need to touch anything. And this is what people also get happy with. They try and trigger happy, pull food quicker than they need to. If you're seeing the drop off on the scale, you don't need to be making a change. Rinse and repeat the life out of that until the scale starts to plateau out. Now, in the beginning, as I've said, food wants to stay high. It will drive performance in the gym. There will come a trade-off where you're doing 40 minutes of cardio daily, and it would just probably be more beneficial for your lifestyle if you pulled 200 calories from food to get the next drop-off. And I understand that, but it's not the go-to in order to drop body fat. Sure, it will be used. Sure, by the end of the transformation, you may be on lower food than your maintenance, but for the longest of time, you will increase your output and then you will pull from food. That's the approach we take to get the results that we do. Now, I also said let's speak about how we train. So let's roll over to some of the workout routines that you'll follow. So when it comes to training, it's going to depend on a few factors. So let's zoom out straight away and ask yourself two questions. How new to the gym are you? And how many days can you commit to consistently? That's every week. I could do 3, 4 or 5 sessions, whichever one you can commit to consistently, and then depend on your training age, depends on the dosage of stimulus you will need. So if you have been training for 6 months and you can only commit to 3 sessions per week, then guess what? You're going to be on a 3-day full body split. If you've been training for 2 years and you can still only commit to a 3-day split, then you're still going to be on a 3-day full body split. Or your other option would be an upper, lower, upper, if the upper body was the main goal. Now, if you've been training for 18 months, you can go 4 days. You're going to go on something like you can either do upper, lower. But if most people are geared to around building aesthetic upper body physique, I prefer to put someone on a full body push and a full body pull. Everything on the front of the body, everything on the back of the body, times 2. Now, the split I use for anyone that's training 5 days a week is you're looking at push, pull, legs. Rather than rinsing that round again, we're going to gear our efforts and energy towards the upper frame. We're going to go a chest and back session and then an arms and delts, because I believe arms and delts, for most guys, they need their own session and their own attention. Unless you've got good genetics for arms, which most people don't, you will want to give them their own day, their own attention, and absolutely obliterate them. Now, when you are training, there's 4 pillars that you need to follow in order to be successful. The first one is the speed of your repetition. Now, this will come down to tempo, and if you broke it down into 4 numbers, you've got the way down of any rep. This is known as the eccentric phase. Now, let me get a video to explain this for you. So you'll be executing your repetitions, and on the way back up, or as the muscle gets longer, you're gonna want to come up around the 3-second mark. So 3, 2, 1, pause, drag it down, pause again in the shorten. So you're always in control of the load. Where it's easiest, on the way up, you're coming up slowly, you're being intentional, and then you're dragging down and pausing where it's hardest as well. The next thing we want to think about is range of motion. So if we're trying to train our lats, we're going to want to bring our arms up as far as we can, but what we don't want to do is take the tension off the lats and place them onto the delts. So we're going to bring up here, and we're going to think, well, the lats start down by our hip bone, and they insert all the way up onto our upper arm. So we need to think about dragging the upper arm towards the hip. So that's taking it through the fullest of range of the joint and the muscle, and then the arm path as well. Would it serve me to have my arms really wide, but then I would only be able to get my elbow so far down? Or if I have my arms a little bit narrow as they are, I can get my elbow all the way down towards my hip, and I can drag that in tight. And then the last thing we're looking to do is always apply progressive overload, so training with intensity. And this is going to be determined by the speed of your last repetition, where you're going to look for around a 3 to a 4 second rep, which I'll show you now. So you'll notice as it starts to get a little bit tougher, you're going to have to grind your way through the concentric phase, fight to pause it in the shorten, and reps are going to start to slow. If you've got a good spotter, he'll help you grind through. If not, this is something you're going to have to do by yourself, and it's hard and it's tough, and then you can do a few partials to wrap it up. Now, when you are training, you're looking for that progressive overload piece. So this means track and record all of your reps, all of your sets and the load lifted. This is what we get our people to do, session in, session out. So you know what you did the time before, and then you improve on that every time you train. So actually, when you're training, you need to be cognitively quite switched on. You need to be thinking, look at your logbook. What did I do last time? Right, well, I achieved this. Well, this time we need to progress it and beat it by 1. Every time we train, if you get an extra rep, once you're at the upper tier of the rep range, bang, we drop it back down, and then we improve the number on that new load. The last tip I'll give you is when you are in the depths of a fat loss phase, which will happen towards the back end of the transformation, to manage fatigue, we can train with a method using 1 top set, heavy 6 to 10, and then 1 back off set where you drop the load by 20% and you try and hit 12 to 15. Just 2 sets, but what this will do is, if we'll draw this out, when you train, let's say the barrier to keep the muscle is here. If you're constantly doing like loads of repetitions, but you're in this space here, not quite enough to breach through, you're doing 8 to 12, the intensity, you could go heavier, but you're trying to conserve it and drag it out over 4 sets, you're in this space here, then ultimately you're not going to be able to breach through that point to hold on or build new tissue. But if you concentrate your efforts into 1 set or 2 sets, you'll be able to breach through to that new point. Now, why I mention this is when you're in the back end of a transformation and food is lower and output is higher, you don't want to be spunking your glycogen so easy. You don't want to be burning those carbs so easy without retaining the tissue. You want to condense your efforts into 1 solid effort and send it, and that way you're not going to accumulate as much fatigue, but you still got the stimulus that you were after. So that's the approach we take to training. The approach we take to feeding when it comes to the meal plans, I'll give you an example that you can look at. So when it comes to the meal plans, one thing I want you to have the mindset of is this wants to be okay, fairly nice, but it doesn't want to be so palatable that you can't stop eating it. You don't want to be trying to make Oreo protein ice cream, because then you're not really being the person that you wanted to become to develop the habits, the discipline. And in some ways, eating the blander food is a better option because it breeds that strong character where it's like, I don't need all this fancy shit. I can stick to the proper foods and get me to the end. So the approach we take is carbs are always going to stay high. Protein's going to be nice and high. Meal 1, I always like to go, you got 2 options. You can either go eggs. I like to go with something fairly fibrous. So if we're at 70 grams of oats and berries at 150, that's adding a good amount of fiber to the diet. 13 grams of fiber out of the 40. So we're starting well. It's going to take a while to digest. And then we add peanut butter fats to it. It's going to slow down digestion even more. Bit of protein powder in there to then add the protein target. Next, we go on to the holy grail, which is chicken, rest, veg, and rice. It's been around for the longest period of time because it works so well. Chicken, very, very lean, can be seasoned a million different ways, can be cooked a million different ways and still be very, not changing the overall calorie content of it. Vegetables, very subjective. Whatever vegetables digest well with you, that's the ones you want to stick to. And again, you can pack out feeding really well with vegetables. You add a load of tomatoes, cucumber, spinach, that's going to bolster the meals quite heavily, add in volume and size without really taking away without adding too much calories. Rice, the reason I go with this here is it digests very nice prior to the workout. Dry weight at 50 grams and add some hot sauce to it. Low calorie hot sauce, you're good to go. Now before the gym, I'll go back to oats. The reason being is it will pack out the meal and it'll give you that stodgy, fibrous feeling. Whether you don't want to go into that session feeling a little bit hungry, because in your mind you'll be like, oh no, I can't train hard today. I'm bloody hungry. When realistically, if we didn't have something that was high GI like the fruit here, and we went oats 60 minutes before you train, you'd be golden. You'd still be relatively full and be able to drive that performance. Post-workout, just a shake, straight down with some almond milk. Evening meal then, rolling with chicken again. Again, do you have to have chicken twice a day? I think so, but you could swap it out. You could go turkey, whitefish, or tuna. Done, not an issue. Go pasta instead of rice. This can be swapped for potatoes, but I tend to put that in towards the back end when you are craving more volume, and that's what potatoes are going to give you over pasta, because you can also ditch the sauce and just have them. You can have the potatoes by themselves. And then with a meal 6, we're looking to round off the day with some morale and something sweet. So we go low-fat yogurt at 200, berries 100 grams, and dark chocolate as a little bit of morale towards the end of the day. You're looking for 70% or above with this. Now, my first 2 cohorts of where I can pull from, we're at 57 fats. So when I eventually do need to pull from food, when my cardio is quite high, I've got two options here. I tend to pull this out first. Why? Well, because towards the back end of the diet, when everything tastes nice at this point because you're hungry, this is hard to stop eating. It's nice in the beginning, but from there we can 30 grams is not a lot. It's literally 3 squares, and that will then give you 180 calories back. That's a weekly change. That's a drop off in a kg across the next week. Sweet. The next option you got is removing the nut butter from this. Yeah, sure, the digestion will not be as slow as it was before, but again, 30 grams, you're getting 200 calories back. That's 2 solid changes you've made, and you took out 60 grams of a food. Smooth. Very, very smooth and easy. So that's the approach we take to feeding. And again, your protein sources can be swapped, your carb sources can be swapped. But I honestly believe sticking to simple, bland foods is what works when it comes to recomposition. And in a weird way, it does something better for your mental space than it does eating all the dopamine processed foods. The last thing I wanted to speak to you about was the recovery. And you may find this a little bit of a boring section, but I can tell you right now, if you don't sleep well, you won't grow. Honestly, it is really, really that simple. If you don't sleep well, you are capping how much growth you can really achieve. Second to that, you don't sleep well, tell me how your hunger signals are the next day. Guarantee, leptin and ghrelin both up, telling your body, oh, fucking hell, we're starving today. And we know the stupid decisions we made, and most of the time when we have had a poor night's sleep and we're tired. If you sleep well, is cortisol going to be higher or lower? Is stress going to be higher or lower? Both going to be lower. Don't swim upstream. Make life easier for yourself. Get 8 hours sleep each and every night. As a non-negotiable, I would much rather you sacked off any stretching, any red light therapy, any sauna, anything like that, and just got an extra hour in bed. That recovery tool has been around for the longest period of time for a reason. Because biologically, that is what works. It repairs a lot of things when you're sleeping. You retain information. You dream about the life you're going to go and conquer if your brain's been good to you. So sleep more. You have to be sleeping more. But if you don't make time for it, it will not happen. If you don't make time for any of these tactics, you've seen the tactics, follow them, they'll work. If you don't make time for them through the routine and you don't re-look at the beliefs and the identity, which we spoke about earlier in this video, it'll be very, very hard to make change, and I don't want that for you. So this is the model and the approach we take to get Gorilla Platoon transformations. If you found it useful, great, subscribe. And if you want to work with us, or should I say not work with us, if you want to be a member and part of the Gorilla Platoon, then book a call and we'll take it from there. Thank you for listening. See you tomorrow.